With Session Update, I'm Julie Bartke. Governor Mark Dayton spoke to a full House chamber about moving Minnesota forward in his annual State of the State address. He stressed his budget proposal would do just that and added key components such as expanding the sales tax, lowering property taxes, and education funding could move the state ahead. We'd like to show you some of the governor's State of the State address and some GOP response.
Comparing the state of our state today with conditions when I took office 2 years ago, we have made important progress. We have much more work ahead of us, however. We're on our way to a better Minnesota. We face another deficit projected at $1.1 billion for the next biennium, and we still owe our schools another $1.1 billion. My budget for the next biennium would lift us out of this miserable deficit-to-deficit cycle. It would eliminate the $1.1 billion deficit, balance the biennial budget, and begin the following biennium with a projected surplus that would enable us to pay back the remainder of the school shift. I want Minnesota to provide the best jobs for our citizens, the best lives for their families, and the best support for our businesses to provide those jobs. I want Minnesota state government to provide the best value for everyone's hard-earned tax dollars and the most efficient, effective services anywhere provided by our country's best state and other public employees. I want Minnesota to offer the world's best educations for all of our citizens, children, and grandchildren. Educations which begin early in life and continue throughout life, so that all of us can learn the skills and relearn the new skills necessary to succeed in a rapidly growing and ever more competitive global economy. I want all of us, and especially Minnesota's future generations, to live in a healthy environment, in safe, inclusive communities, and with the same rights and protections as every other American citizen. A healthy life starts with and depends upon clean air to breathe, clean water to drink, protected natural environments to enjoy, and a secure ecological future. No one can endure the severe droughts or floods of recent years, endure, or I guess some do enjoy, our milder snow-scarce winters, lather on sunscreen to walk outdoors without being greatly alarmed. Are we doing all that we can to utilize other renewables, such as solar, and to make Minnesota the best place to locate these new industries and their jobs? I challenge this legislature to work again with our state's visionary clean energy advocates, large energy providers, large energy users, other stakeholders, and my administration to use your past achievements as springboards for Minnesota's next best big leap toward a sustainable energy future. 2 years ago, in this speech, I challenged businesses to adopt a school. Some businesses, to their great credit, were already involved in improving our schools, and others accepted my challenge. Some, however, especially smaller businesses, have told me that it was just too big an assignment to adopt an entire school. So I invite you to adopt an after-school program. It might involve a financial contribution, the donation of new or used equipment, the donation of your employees as part-time volunteers. There's so many good organizations for which to choose, and so many young people who need better options than unoccupied time, streets, and gangs. And we found our common belief that it is about love, commitment, and responsibility. I want Minnesota to be a state which affirms that freedom for one means freedom for everyone, and where no one is told it is illegal to marry the person you love. My budget would reduce overall state spending for the next biennium by $1.8 billion below what was projected when I took office in 2011. So my budget would add $240 million in higher ed funding for the next biennium. Now that counts as a spending increase on paper, which technically it is. However, it falls over $100 million short of restoring the funding cut from fiscal year 2010-11, the previous biennium, and it still leaves state support for higher education hundreds of millions of dollars below the real levels of 20 and even 30 years ago. Does anyone believe that continuing to reduce our commitment to higher education is the path to a better Minnesota? Then we need to put our money where our beliefs are. And through the creation of the Minnesota Insurance Exchange, we will enable Minnesota individuals, families, and businesses to make more informed decisions about good, affordable health care coverage. And I want to thank all the hundreds of Minnesotans from all over the state, businessmen and women, health care providers, insurers, consumers of health care services, social service delivery systems, legislators, stakeholders who've worked hard to build a Minnesota exchange program that will be the best in the country. We're leading the way. It's going to be a huge undertaking, but if we all pull together, use the best expertise that all of us have to provide, we're going to make it. We're going to make Minnesota proud. We're going to make Minnesota better. In education, we have worked with Republican and DFL legislators, business executives, and other civic leaders to establish state support for early childhood learning programs, a quality rating system, and scholarships for low-income children. My new budget would expand significantly early learning opportunities for children statewide. My proposal to provide state funds for optional all-day kindergarten would provide a continuum of learning from early childhood into first grade and beyond. I suggest making next year's legislative session the first unsession. After this session is concluded on time in May, I will ask my agency heads and legislative staff to begin making lists, checking them twice, and working with any legislators, other public officials, and citizens who wish to spearhead these reforms. The third component of my balanced budget approach raises state revenues, which will be necessary to eliminate the deficit and still prevent further reductions in the services and assistance that many Minnesotans need. Raising revenues requires asking someone to pay more taxes. Making taxes fairer requires asking more of those citizens and corporations who now pay less than their proportionate share. Few people like paying taxes, even when they're fair. No one likes paying more taxes, even when necessary to make them fair. But when taxes are unfair and remain unfair, not only do the people who are forced to pay more rightfully resent it, but they also lose faith in their elected officials who won't change it. Today, more and more hardworking middle-class Minnesotans believe that the state's present tax structure is unfair to them, and they're right. Well, just saying no just won't work. Not in Rochester, where the renowned Mayo Clinic wants us to help them continue to outclass their competitors in other states and other countries, and to continue to doing so from Rochester. It is an awesome responsibility to know that Minnesota's future will depend in part on the choices that we are all called upon to make. Those choices will not be easy, and some of them will not be popular. But it's time to prove that Minnesota's leaders, all of us here tonight, are capable of more than ideological skirmishes and political stalemates which offend our state's citizens and jeopardize our state's future. We're better than that. We're better than that.
What we heard was not anything remarkable. We did hear him talk a little bit about some of the things that have happened in the last couple of years that he said were successes, indications of improvement, which we think he's right. There are a lot of things, signs of improvement in our economy and things that Minnesota should be proud of. We frankly think that many of those things are somewhat related to the kind of discipline that we brought to the state budget in the last couple of years. I think the governor frankly acknowledged that when he talked about the problem that we have in the state budget this year compared to the problem that we faced 2 years ago. And I think he mentioned that we brought some discipline to the budgetary process in our budget attempts 2 years ago that have made a difference in controlling the growth and spending and bringing some much-needed reform to the state budget. So we do think and thank the governor for his acknowledgement of our success in that endeavor. But we do think that his prescription of more taxes on everybody, $3.5 billion of new taxes is not warranted. These are sales taxes that are going to hit everybody, taxes on clothing, taxes on lunch meat, taxes on haircuts, taxes on services. These things are going to affect everybody. You know, there's a local department store that talks about expect more, pay less. I think the governor's talking about pay more, expect less. People in Minnesota are going to expect less from our government. They're going to expect less in their paychecks. They're going to expect less in their pockets, in their home budgets. And we think that this is not the right direction for the state of Minnesota. We believe that we need to hold our spending in line with revenues. There is going to be a growth in revenues in the state of Minnesota. We just need to have the discipline to manage the budget and bring reform to what we're doing and do it more efficiently and more effectively.
But the thing that stood out for me tonight tonight was the governor's acknowledgement that the policies that we put in place over the last couple of years have worked. And I think what we're seeing here from the governor is a tale of two Minnesotas. And we're at a juncture here where we have to make some decisions in the next budget on what direction we're going to go. We've got a great success record, and the governor acknowledged that tonight, that we did accomplish good things in growing the economy and creating jobs over the last couple of years. It was great to hear him say that. I think he probably took a little bit of a liberty taking some credit for that, and I wonder if he forgets that it took 20 days of a government shutdown to get him to come around to those policies. And our commitment is to grow the economy and create jobs. And we feel that the policies we put in place over the last couple of years will do that, and the tax policies that the governor has proposed for the next couple of years will do exactly the opposite. And we feel that we need to have a tax policy in the state of Minnesota that promotes job creation and economic growth. So,
surprised that gay marriage came up in the state of the state?
Not necessarily. We had heard that potentially was the case, but you know, I'm not sure that now is exactly the time to be talking about that. I know this is an issue that certainly the state of Minnesota is divided on, and one of the things that a lot of us have commented on in St. Paul is that we need to have a little more cooperation and working together. And I think that we really need to be focused on the budget and growing the economy and creating jobs. We feel that that's what is good for all Minnesotans, and that's what all Minnesotans can agree is what we should be working on in St. Paul. So we hope we can work together on those things and really make that our #1 priority. I know out on the campaign trail, everybody says that what we need to do is grow the economy and create jobs. Here's our opportunity, and we're, as I said earlier, ready to roll up our sleeves and get to work to do that.
Senator Hamm, would you comment on that also?
Well, I agree with Representative Dowd. I think we had a pretty robust debate about that in the last election, and I think we need to focus on the budget. We need to focus on creating jobs, and that's what we're here to do.
You were accused by Democrats for 2 years of overreaching when you guys had the majority, particularly because of what they said were divisive social issues. Is that happening here?
Well, we'll see. I think.
You don't consider this divisive?
Well, I think that it certainly is an issue that has divided the people of the state of Minnesota. There's lots of very passionate opinions on this on both sides, and the majority certainly has the opportunity to bring whatever the issue they want to the floor. But we think that the budget, we think that how we are going to deal with the economy are the important issues, the central issues. We think the governor's approach is the wrong way to do it. We think that we have some suggestions and are willing to work on it in a better way, so we'll see.